All right, everybody, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into a brand new action RPG.
Oh, cool.
It just dropped on Xbox Game Pass. It's called Eternal Strands.
Okay.
And we're going to be using this awesome in-depth review we found to kind of figure out if it's worth your time, you know?
Right.
So, if you are into fantasy worlds, like really unique magic systems, exciting exploration, this deep dive is for you.
I'm excited.
Okay, so let's jump right in. You play as Bryn.
Okay.
And she's a weaver, which basically means she can control magic. But here's where it gets really interesting, and the review like raves about this.
Okay.
They have this physics-based magic system, and apparently it's not just like pick a spell from a list. It's like you actually combine elements
Interesting.
like fire and ice to like make different effects.
That's really cool. I haven't seen that too often.
Yeah.
Most magic systems are kind of, like you said, just pick a spell and that's it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
But this sounds like it's like really strategic.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How so?
Well, so they were giving this example in the review where like you can freeze an enemy with ice magic, right?
Oh.
But then you can use telekinesis to like grab a boulder
What?
from like the environment and just crush them.
Whoa.
So it's not just like, you know, hack and slash.
Yeah.
It's like you're really using the world around
That's awesome. I love that. And your powers together.
you. Yeah. That's a really cool way to add some depth to combat. It's not just like you were saying, just pushing buttons.
Exactly.
It seems like it rewards you for being creative
Right.
and thinking outside the box.
Totally. And, you know, speaking of exploration,
Yeah.
this game takes a lot of inspiration from, like, Breath of the Wild,
Okay, I can see that.
especially with climbing.
Yeah.
The review says you can climb, like, almost anything,
Oh, wow.
which opens up so many possibilities, like, you know, just exploring the world,
Right.
finding secrets,
Yeah.
getting the drop on enemies. Absolutely. I think climbing mechanics can add a whole new dimension to a game. Like, you think about, like, flanking enemies from above.
Right?
Or finding, like, a hidden area with some cool loot in it. It seems like you can really explore vertically and horizontally in this game.
Exactly. And speaking of loot,
Okay.
let's talk about the crafting system.
All right. I'm interested.
So it seems like character progression is like super tied into crafting.
So it's not like the typical level up system.
Not
So
really.
you're saying it's more about finding recipes
Yeah.
and gathering materials to upgrade your gear and stuff?
Exactly. And I think this is cool because like it adds this whole other element
Yeah.
of discovery to the game, you know?
Absolutely, especially for players who love to experiment.
Yes.
Like trying out different combinations and figuring out what works best.
Totally. The review was talking about like how you can upgrade your weapons, your armor, even your magic abilities, all through crafting.
That sounds awesome, but are there any downsides to this?
Well, that's the thing. The review mentions having to go back to your base camp a lot
Oh, really?
to actually do the crafting.
See, that's where I could see it getting a little tedious.
Right. And I wish they would have said like how often you have to do that.
Yeah, how much does it interrupt the flow of the game?
Exactly. Like, is this something that happens every 5 minutes?
Right.
Or is it something that happens every hour?
Exactly.
We don't really know.
Yeah, that's a crucial detail.
And, you know, another thing the review mentioned was that while the combat is really unique and innovative, it can feel kind of imprecise at times.
Yeah, that's often a problem with physics-based combat.
Yeah.
It's hard to get that balance right between freedom and responsiveness.
Right.
You want players to be able to experiment, but if the controls aren't tight enough, it can get frustrating really quickly.
Totally. And on the story side of things,
Okay.
the review kind of hinted that the story, while it is interesting,
Yeah.
might rely a little too much on like those typical fantasy tropes.
Oh, okay, so nothing's super groundbreaking.
Yeah. Not necessarily, but, you know, it's not a deal breaker.
Right, a familiar story can still be enjoyable,
Exactly.
especially if it's well executed.
What about the world itself?
Yeah.
Like, is it a living, breathing world? Or is it just kind of like a static backdrop?
That's a good question.
Well, from what I'm reading, it sounds like it's super dynamic.
Okay.
Like, this review was talking about how there were destructible environments.
Oh, wow.
It's a day-night cycle.
Cool.
Even hazards that can, like, affect combat and exploration.
That's awesome.
So it really seems like your actions have an impact on the world.
Yeah, it makes it feel more immersive and unpredictable.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen next.
Exactly.
I love that.
And visually, it seems like they really knocked it out of the park.
Oh, yeah.
The review used words like painterly and semi-realistic to describe the art style.
Okay.
And they were raving about how smooth it runs on the Xbox Series X.
That's always a plus.
60 frames per second.
Especially for a game like this where there's a lot going on visually. And it needs to be responsive. So it sounds like it's a beautiful and well-optimized game.
Totally. So overall, is this game worth checking out?
I think so, especially if you have Game Pass. It sounds like it brings something new to the table with that combat system.
Yeah.
The exploration sounds rewarding, and the world sounds dynamic and immersive. But, keep in mind, those potential pacing issues with the crafting
Right.
and the combat might take some getting used to.
That's true. So Eternal Strands definitely has us intrigued.
Yeah.
Now, for our listeners out there, if you could create your own special attack in this game, combining any two elements, what would it be and why? Let us know in the comments. Would you go for like a fiery tornado? Or maybe like a freezing beam that encases enemies in ice? The possibilities are endless. So let your imaginations run wild, and if Eternal Strands sounds like your jam, be sure to check it out on Game Pass. Happy gaming, everyone.